So this comment got a lot of engagement, and it's actually an interesting conversation. I'm of the camp that if anybody is doing something wrong to a group of people, they should be called out for it. But I know there are a lot of people who have a hard time deciphering what is right or wrong. And the original person who wrote this comment is basically saying that that kind of talk is doing nothing positive for the world. And I know this is crazy to think, but I imagine most sane people would agree with this, because imagine a man making the same statement when his experiences were nothing but bad at the hands of women, and then he comes online to tell the world that all women should be erased from the earth. They would think he was super sexist and a very big problem. So let's dive into why this comment, or the original comment that this person is addressing, is not a false equivalent, as somebody put it, as people are claiming. And then look at some of the replies. So I usually attempt to address the comments directly, not the actual person per se, but the actual statement, because it's easier and I don't know the person personally. So, this is how the thread kind of starts, or at least the early portion of it. And I understand that a lot of this is coming from people who are hurt. As someone who was a victim of many of those crimes, I empathize to some degree. However, what I do not agree with, the part that just loses me, is then wishing harm on everybody else because of what a few people did to you. So the original comment, for those of you who don't know or can't see, reads, "Your kill all men talk does nothing positive to the world." To which someone replies, or if they retweeted it, "Hating all men for what some men do is sexist, by the way." And that person's name is Gwen, and you're right, Gwen. And that person's name is Gwen, and you're right, Gwen, that's true. However, a person named Hey replied and said, "Okay, but what about being afraid of all men for what some men do? Is that sexist as well?" I would say no, it's not sexist. If a dog bites you and you genuinely love animals and like dogs, but a dog attacked you when you were younger, making you way more cautious or wary of dogs in general, or a little bit afraid of them, that doesn't necessarily mean you hate them. The word sexist is defined as characterized by or showing prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination, typically against women, on the basis of sex. Being afraid of men means someone is reacting based on self-preservation. For example, if someone has experienced assault or harassment, their fear may be a subconscious defense mechanism to protect themselves from future harm. It's not about thinking that men are all evil, it's about avoiding the perceived danger based on their experience. Hating men means you're basically blaming or resenting all men, even those who are innocent, and treating them as enemies or inherently bad by nature. Hatred generalizes in a way that completely dismisses people on an individual level with their individually unique differences, and this can or will lead to actual prejudice or discrimination. All right, so in response to that other person's question, Gwen said at the bottom, "Is being afraid of someone with darker skin because other people with darker skin committed crimes racist?" Yes, it is. It might be a form of bias, but not necessarily racism. Wait, before you jump me, hear me out, because the same logic applies here. There's a difference between bias based on experience and racism. They're not the same thing. And some people may even say, oh, prejudice and racism are a little bit different, and there are some differences with those too. Bias kind of borderlines on prejudice, but prejudice basically is preconceived notions about someone before you even know them. It's just, oh, that person just looks that way. It's not even based on your experience. Bias might be that, or pattern recognition, or whatever the word is for it. But bias based on experience comes from personal encounters, conditioning, societal messaging. It's when someone develops cautiousness, like they're really weirded out about certain patterns that they see in people that they've observed firsthand. It's not necessarily believing that, oh, that group is inferior. It's about this learned response based on previous interactions they've had with said group or said animal or whatever. Racism, on the other hand, is systematic, or it is rooted in a belief of superiority or inferiority. It's not just fear, it's just blatant discrimination, it's stereotyping, and actively treating a group differently because they're seen as inherently lesser or dangerous. It's when you see a group of people that are happy, or if that person is Indian or whatever, because you don't like Indians or you see them as less than, you could see a happy, successful Indian guy with a member of your own ethnicity, and you just instantly get mad and want to say the worst about them. That is racism. So if someone experienced a traumatic event involving a certain demographic and now has an instinctive fear around people who kind of resemble that situation, that's prejudice, sort of, or bias in this case, but not necessarily racism, at least not yet, because it's rooted in a psychological response, not a belief system about superiority or inferiority. For example, take the situation with 9/11 and how people developed this fear of Muslims based on a small sect of them being responsible for terrorizing others. It's the same situation as the example I gave with the dog. Someone who was attacked by a dog as a child might now have a fear that all dogs are going to bite them or that have the propensity to. And here's another thing. Because people seem to struggle with visualizing certain scenarios unless it's about one particular skin color. Now imagine there's a tribe of dark-skinned Africans from some country in Africa, right? Like in a video I showed a long time ago, let's say some of these people have never seen a white person before. Like everyone they've ever known has dark skin, and suddenly they see someone walking down the street with completely pale skin. If they didn't have the internet and didn't know anything about this reality, that there were people out there in the world that look like this, it would scare the shit out of them, and vice versa, because that person does not look like what they're used to. Does it mean that they're racist towards that person? Do they think that they're superior? No, they just don't understand what the hell it is that's walking towards them. There's no hatred there. They're just fucking scared out of their minds. Now, if they got to know a few white people or Caucasian people or pale-skinned people, like the adults did in the video I had showed in some other video, they would understand, oh, they're just humans like us. They just look different. But what if that white person came to their area, started killing their people, stealing their land, and doing a whole bunch of horrible things and giving them bad experiences? And then later, these dark-skinned people go somewhere else and see a lot of other white people who are generally good people and want to help them. Would it be understandable if that specific tribe hated white people or held a prejudice towards them? Absolutely, that's understandable. But if that fear and anger go unchecked, to the point where even after learning that not all white-skinned people are like that, they still hate them anyway, then yes, that does become racism, and that is not okay. Unchecked fear-based prejudice or bias can lead to racist actions if someone then starts applying it unfairly to every single person who fits that demographic. But it's important to recognize that fear and hatred, they're not the same thing, and fear alone isn't always rooted in a belief of racial superiority. It's just fear. Even though I get what Gwen is trying to say at the bottom when she says, oh, is being afraid of someone with darker skin color because other people with darker skin color commit crimes racist. I get what she's trying to say, but her example isn't really a perfect comparison because fear and hatred are not interchangeable. Fear is an emotional reaction, while racism is a structured belief that justifies why someone should discriminate against someone else. But yeah, that skewed way of thinking, yes, that can lead to racism or sexism in this case with what we're talking about, especially when you know that the world around you is filled with more decent people who aren't going to do those same things to you. I grew up mostly around men and boys, and even though most of the people who hurt me when I was a child were men, two of them being women, I've also met way more men who are amazing people. My father is one of them. My father is an amazing man, and he's a really good person. And I would even argue that he's a bit too kind sometimes. He lets people kind of walk over him and still is kind to them. And I think I got a little bit of that from him, though I did toughen up a bit after being bullied. But unless it comes like protecting us, like his kids, my father would rather make peace and try to see people on their level, even when they're angry and hateful, rather than to fight or strike back. And when people say, someone's too good for this world, the first person that comes to my mind, honestly, is my daddy. And I really fear the day that I have to let him go. I know that's going to break me to pieces more than anything else ever has. I don't even like thinking about it. But more than anything, like fear impacts how people see the world. And if you acknowledge that your fear is driving your outlook of an entire group of people, that's the first step in realizing that you have a freaking problem and that you need to see a therapist or at least talk to your support group or something. Unless, of course, they're all reinforcing that fear, in which case you're just stuck in this echo chamber. What happens when a child is bitten by a dog? In my country, if a child is bitten by a dog, the adults would usually force them to interact with other animals and dogs. That way, they don't develop an irrational fear of all dogs. And they realize that, okay, one dog doesn't represent the entire race of dogdom. But for the kids who didn't get reintegrated into being around animals or dogs, guess what happens? They usually continue to have that irrational fear, and it actually compounds. And many times it turns into outright hatred to the point where they'll see a video of a dog getting hurt and say, good, I hate dogs. Like, I've actually met people like that. And I see people doing the same thing with cats. And I'm just like, wow, they'll see a video of a cat defending its territory, scratching or biting someone that the cat sees as an intruder in their home. And the person will be like, yeah, this is why I like dog, fuck cats. Like, bruh, it's an intruder. Like, the cat thought it was an intruder. If it was a dog doing the same thing, you'd be like, good boy, give him a steak. But because it's a cat defending its home, you suddenly hate it. That's an irrational fear of cats based on misunderstanding them and not educating yourself or socializing with them to understand better. And it's just ignorant. I'm sorry. Like, you'll do the same thing for another animal that you personally like and identify better with, but not the other animal that you hate that's doing the same thing, which is defending its owner's home and its territory. And it's the same thing with people, whether it be a different skin color, a different sex, whatever. Now, there are cases where you have overwhelming numbers of people from one demographic reinforcing the negative stereotypes about them. And in those cases, yeah, it does make it harder to fight those perceptions. For example, if you have every freaking woman on a show coming out and being like, men ain't shit, men ain't that, and that's all you're constantly seeing over and over and over again, it hurts the rest of us. It hurts the general perception of women in general. So it's on those groups of people to be the best versions of themselves so they can show the ignorant people who are afraid that, not all of us in that demographic are like that. It may be annoying, but it is the responsibility of humanity that when we meet each other in real life, we put our best foot forward, to make people around us feel comfortable. If you see a dude wearing a mask walking toward you and you know from experience that what the fuck is this game? Hold on.
Yeah, crazy.
I'm coming to help. I need backup too.
Guys, I'm lost. Where are you? Oh, not again.
Get down here.
Why did you tell me about sorry.
Oh shit, I need to get that game. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Nope, never mind. Nope! I don't like people are playing with you and stuff, but fuck that noise. Yeah, like I said, you have fun with that. I can do horror movies. I cannot. No. And the sounds. Ooh, no. Skeeze me out. Sorry, I'm so off track here. What is this called? Mound Omen of Cthulhu. Watch my husband force me to play it. Oh my fucking god, bro. What was I saying before? Yeah, like a mask, like the mask thing. What was I saying about the mask at night? Yeah, okay. So sorry, I know we got off track. So let's say it's nighttime and you see a dude wearing a mask. Yes, and he looks like this person, I guess. And from experience, when it's dark out, when there aren't a lot of people around and nobody else is wearing a mask, especially if it looks like this. Oh my god. The people that usually dress like this are trying to disguise themselves, so they're usually the ones that swipe your stuff. Then it makes sense that you'd recognize, patterns and stay away. That's not hate, that's caution. That's smart. Even if you're a dude and you see, let's say nobody else is wearing a mask. It's not freaking lockdown. Everybody is walking out in the open and you see it's dark as hell. And there's a group of dudes coming towards you and they start getting quiet. If you've actually, I've never lived in the city, but I've gone to school in the city and I lived in the suburban area, outside of the city, and I had to go through it. You learn certain behaviors. If you're approaching a group of people on a sidewalk and they start to get quiet as you get closer to them, cross the street. Cross the street. It does not matter. Cross the fucking street, whether it's a group of girls or a group of guys. Now, if you're a girl and there's a group of girls doing it, cross the street, and you're a girl, cross the street. If you're a guy or a girl and there's a group of guys doing it, cross the street. Usually, my dumb ass would be like, oh, if it's a group of guys, I'm going to just walk right through them. And usually what you expect to happen is exactly what happens. Not necessarily they're not going to rob you. I found that mostly two or a single person who's a guy, they'll rob you. But if it's a group of 6 or 7 or 12 guys, they won't rob you. But they will hit on you. They'll surround you. But they won't, hurt you. Look, this is just me saying, from my experience, and this was, out in the open, but if it's dark, don't be stupid like me. Cross the street. Cross the street. Me, I'm just I'm never scared. I'm walking through this group of 12 dudes, and they're getting quiet. Because if they were all talking and then they see you, that's code for, oh, our attention is now what's coming towards us. We now want to either fuck with this person or we're now focused on this person. Either thing is bad. So it doesn't matter. If the group of people don't look like you, fuck racism. It doesn't matter. Cross the fucking street. If they say you're racist, you're racist. Cross the street. If they start crossing the street, fucking run. I'm telling you, Just do it. Have people out there being like, oh, I'm going to Mexico, and I see this group of dudes with freaking guns, but I don't want to make it seem like I'm racist against Mexicans. Meanwhile, damn well that's the fucking cartel. Cross the goddamn street or turn around, bro. Like, people are so stupid. People are so worried about hurting people's feelings that they completely forget common sense. Please. But on that note, doesn't mean that every single person wearing a mask is evil or out to rob you. It doesn't, but it should make you very wary. You can be wary of people without hating them. That is possible. It makes sense that women who were victims of a crime that men committed against them would feel wary toward all men. That's completely understandable, and that's normal. They want to keep themselves safe so the same thing doesn't happen again. So this is where the conversation switches up, and this is where I don't agree, because Hay responds to Gwen with, you don't answer a question with a false equivalence, sweaty. I like how she tries to sound intelligent. We're like, false equivalence, and then you write at the end, and you even put the comma in the correct place, but then still spell the word sweetie wrong. Unless you meant to say sweaty, which is a whole other different thing. But anyway, it says, is it sexist for a woman to be cautious or scared of all men because of her experiences with men? It's a simple yes or no question. Really? Because if so, then all women in the world are now sexist. How are you using punctuations properly in some areas, but then you just say fuck all with the rest of the paragraph? Might as well just do the slang term for typing rather than trying to... Jesus Christ. Anyway, I don't know why that annoys me so much. Like, I know I do slang too when I'm typing, but if I'm already doing slang and I don't care about my grammar, I'm not going to sit there being like, let me put the comma and the punctuation in the right area, but then not do it with everything else. Be consistent. I guess this is par for the course with the person. But anyway, usually I would agree here, but you can't really speak for all the women in the world because I don't feel that way. Maybe I should feel that way, given what happened to me, but I do not. And maybe that's because I had a good father figure and I grew up around mostly good men or male figures. And because I was socialized and reinforced with the idea that most men out there, or rather most human beings, as per what I have seen, try to be good people, men and women. I feel quite comfortable around men. As a matter of fact, I feel more comfortable around men than I do around women, especially when it comes to safety. If I'm walking home at night, I think for the most part, I can read people. And if I see a guy across the street who looks like a decent individual, sure, he could be a serial killer. But if I have scoped out that person or whatnot, like, I feel safer walking alongside him than I do just another woman. Like, it's not that I don't feel safe around women either, but out of the two, I know that the one that can actually protect me, and who in my experience usually does, is the dude. I'm not saying that women don't. Of course, women will go to a lot of lengths to protect other people. Trust me, I've seen that. I've had it happen to me. I've done it to people. Men have done the same. But when it comes to the person who can actually, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, two women, group of guys could still target a guy with his girlfriend. That is possible. But just from my experience, the person who's better able to put up a fight against other people his size is usually the dude. And I've met homeless women and homeless men. There are good homeless women. There are good homeless men. And the bad ones or the weird ones, they always cross this weird boundary. And it's men and women both that do this. Does it mean that I hate all homeless people? Quite the opposite. Most homeless people I've met are decent people. A lot of them have made bad choices and they admit that. But when you talk to them, you can tell they're just regular human beings. You can see that they don't want to be where they are. And they are just people. And most of them don't want to hurt you. Sure, yes, maybe some would steal from you, but the ones that I've met, specifically in Philly, they're actually pretty decent people. Maybe that also depends on where you are. I will say that. If you live in a very dangerous neighborhood and that's the only experience you've ever had with men and women, then yeah, I can completely understand your perspective. And that's why it's so important, just like with the dog example, to go out there and reintegrate yourself into society or outside of your bubble of what you have. Like, I've traveled to different places. Of course, I haven't traveled to a lot of other countries and a lot of other states. I've only been to a few states in this country, but it really did open up my eyes. Like, if you travel to the South, people like to say, who are in the North, oh, Southerns are racist. Are they though? Like, I've experienced the complete opposite. I don't know what the frick people are talking about, because you usually see more of that in the North, and they try to play it off in this passive aggressive, ignorant way, but they're being racist. And in the South, when you travel there, it's like, oh, wow, this Southern hospitality thing people are talking about, It's real, but it's important to try and get out there and try to see the world through everybody else's eyes. But yes, the fear that you have, it is valid. But when someone digs their feet in and then says something like, it's not surprising given that you think men experience sexism. You already reveal that you don't actually understand sexism. For what it's worth, I hope they pick you anyway. That's where you completely lose me. That's where you've lost me. And that's where I feel like it's a lost cause to engage with people like this, because what the actual fuck are you talking about? You obviously don't know what sexism actually is or what it entails yourself. Because if you did, you wouldn't say something this fucking stupid. You were literally the walking, talking, typing epitome of what sexism is by that comment alone. And this is exactly why people will discount actual victims. Because when you present yourself as the face and representation of victims of crimes like this, and then you say dumb shit like this, people stop taking it seriously. People are no longer going to feel sorry for you or try to see things from your side or people who are victims, because you've already shown your true colors. And in only a few posts, you've proven that you're not here for real discussion. And as people are calling out here, as someone said in response to this, it's always support all women unless their opinion differs from mine, and then they're just some naive pick-me. Men do experience sexism as it's different in state and individual because they're individuals. You're not prone to it for being male. That is reality. Let's again look at what sexism means. Sexism. Prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination typically against women on the basis of sex. Oh, and since this woman or person, whatever, has a hard time understanding the definition of words, the word typically means in most cases, or usually. It doesn't mean exclusive. You've actually played yourself and you revealed yourself to be sexist while looking for an excuse to be all righteous and, oh my God, I'm championing against sexism, and you're actually being sexist. I find this so freaking rich because this person is actually fighting against a comment that is literally just saying people shouldn't say kill all men. That does not help anything. Let that sink in for a moment. This is the reason this person is going off the deep end. And it's so weird how people like this actually believe that taking this kind of stance is somehow going to make people more sympathetic towards women. No. On the contrary, you're making all women look bad and you're giving people a reason to be sexist against us. You do not speak for all of us. I don't even know if you are a woman, but you don't speak for all of us. And I have no idea what it is you're trying to achieve with this kind of projection, but you clearly need some help. And then you've got people like this trying to drag queer people into the conversation. Like, what the hell does this have to do with queer people? Why are queer people always being shoved into arguments that have nothing to do with them? This comment reads in reply to the comment that says, Twitter doesn't care. They want to hate others and then pretend they're the good guys. I think that's in response to the original post that says, your kill all men talk does nothing positive to the world. And this organism says, when you've got such obvious queer haters like this, pretend they are the good guys. Mother effers agreeing with you. You know you failed at standing up for LGBTQ people, and you're just another pick-me bitch. These weak-minded, but men have feelings too, people will never fight for your rights. Are they addressing the original person who also has what I'm guessing is the trans flag in there? Wow. So this person is saying, sometimes words just escape me, man. Wow. Yeah. And nobody's ever going to fight for your rights or give a damn about you if this is the kind of behavior that you display. Why should anybody care about what the hell is happening to you when you don't show empathy for other people? As if queer people are the only ones who have rights. If it weren't for straight men and women, you probably wouldn't even be here, bitch. So what are you talking about? What does this have to do with anything? All I see when I read comments like this is people who just want to hate people. You're angry with yourself. You have massive insecurities. And so you want everybody else to be miserable like you're miserable. And you're proving everybody right while making yourself a big ass target and other people in your community or the communities that you claim you're allying with. When people finally get sick and tired of your bullshit and start pushing back, you act like a victim. Oh, people trying to fucking erase you. You're actively defending the idea that saying kill all men is not problematic, yet you're out here worried about your own rights. Make it make sense. If you actually want people to take you seriously and care about your struggles, you need to care about theirs too. And I don't even mean just on an individual level. Maybe something is like, hey, maybe not say kill a whole entire group of people. That's not cool. Cause my group of people that I belong to might be way smaller, and doing that may provoke the people that I'm supposed to be afraid of, that I'm worried about hurting me. Like, I don't even get that. Like, these people who are claiming they're scared of men and men are so dangerous, and you fit a very small demographic. Why would you then provoke the larger demographic? Like, it just does not make sense to me. It does not make sense. You have to be willing to step outside of your little tiny box, the one that you've locked your very small microscopic mind in, and understand that the world is bigger than just you. This kind of rhetoric would not be okay if men were saying it about women. It wouldn't be okay if white people were saying it about non-white people. So why is it suddenly okay when the opposite happens? That's a rhetorical question, by the way, because the answer is it's not okay. And if people like this keep pushing this kind of hatred, they're going to end up with everybody else turning against them. Like, I'm just saying, everything that they claim that they're fighting for, that's all going to be gone. Kiss that goodbye. Because when you spend all your time throwing hate at other people, you're going to get it back tenfold. And that's not kind of freaking parable. That's just cause and effect. That is what you love to always preach, the consequences of your fucking action.
Anytime I stitch a video of some woman saying some left-handed shit that should not be said and trying to divide genders, the comment section has a say. Her video, women are just making fun of men, and in my comment section I'm a pick me if she's joking and it's not that serious. But then y'all do shit like this. So who's really the enemy? Why are men being penalized for your mistakes and your faults and you not taking personal accountability? This whole victim mindset of I'm gonna blame them so that way people can't say anything about me because I'm perfect, you're literally the problem.